Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. My name is Arnab Mishra and welcome back to my series where I read and analyze some of the most influential speeches from the book World's Great Speeches. Today I'm beginning a second chapter from this book. The chapter name is Ordered to Shoot the Ringleaders of Treason, delivered by Adolf Hitler. To understand this speech, we first need to understand what happened before it. In June 1934, Germany witnessed an event known as Night of the Long Knives. Adolf Hitler ordered a violent purge in which many leaders of South Africa, along with several political opponents, were arrested and executed. Only a few days later, on 30th July 1934, Hitler addressed the German parliament and delivered this speech to explain and justify those actions. The speech is therefore not about introducing new policies, it is primarily an attempt to explain why those killings took place. According to Hitler, they were necessary. The speech begins dramatically. Hitler says that late at the night he received information that Germany was facing a serious conspiracy. He explains that he immediately traveled to Munich after receiving alarming reports. According to him, the country was in immediate danger, and swift action was necessary to prevent a larger crisis. He then openly admits that he personally ordered the shooting of those he described as the ringleaders of treason. One striking feature of the speech is that Hitler does not deny the execution. Instead, he argues that they were essential for protecting Germany. Throughout the speech, Hitler repeatedly stressed on one idea: absolute loyalty to the state. He argues that anyone who attempts to betray Germany or challenge the Nazi government deserves severe punishment. He says that no rank, position, or influence should protect anyone from punishment if they are considered guilty of treason. This reflects from the core themes of the speech. Loyalty to the regime was presented as most important than individual right or legal protection. Perhaps the most significant part of the speech was the Hitler discussion of justice. Some people criticized the executions by arguing that only courts should decide guilt or punishment. Hitler rejected this argument. He claims that in times of national emergency, the leader has the authority to act immediately rather than wait for judicial procedures. In other words, he presents himself as a final authority, placing executive power above the normal process. From a historical perspective, this is one of the most important movements in the speech because it illustrates how authoritarian government often weakens the rule of law by arguing that extraordinary situation requires extraordinary powers. After recurring theme is the justification of violence, Hitler argues that those who opposed him were dangerous conspirators whose action threatened Germany's future. He insists that his decision prevents civil war and protect national security. He repeatedly portrays the execution not as crime, but the necessary action to be taken in the defense of the nation. This is an important example of how political leaders may attempt to frame violence as an act of patriotism. In today's world, historians generally view this speech very differently from how Hitler intended. Rather than seeing it as a defense of justice, they consider it as an attempt to justify political killings after they had already taken place. The speech is widely studied because it demonstrates how language can be used to create fear, label opponents as enemies, justify the concentration of power, weaken judicial institutions, and convince ordinary people that exceptional violence is necessary. It is therefore considered an important example of political propaganda and authoritarian rhetoric. Although this speech was delivered more than 90 years ago, it still offers an important lesson. It reminds us why modern democracy is valuable. The rule of law, the independent courts, due process, accountability, and constitutional limits on governmental power. History teaches us when a single individual claims unlimited authority and places themselves above law, legal institutions, democratic safeguards become vulnerable. Studying speeches like this help us to recognize how persuasive language can be used to shape public opinions during the time of fear and crisis. As a reader of history, our responsibility is not simply to remember famous speeches, but to understand their consequences. Adolf Hitler's speech remains significant not because it represents an idea to follow, but because it shows how political rhetoric can be used to justify extraordinary action and consolidate power. By studying such speeches critically, we become better equipped to recognize the importance of democracy, justice, and rule of law in the society. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy learning about history, politics, law, influential speeches, follow my journey as I continue exploring world's great speeches, analyzing each one from a historical and educational perspective. See you in the next video. Bye bye.